video is to go over the Umety Classroom application. We are going to cover logging in. We're going to go through the library. We're going to go through my classes, including adding content and creating playlists, adding students, running a VR session, data and analytics, and then finally we're going to cover the resources tab. To navigate to the login page, you can go to umety.com and click Login in the upper right-hand corner. The first step is going in and finding your school name. If you don't know your school name, you can check with your admin of your account. We're going to start in the Library tab. And in the Library tab, I have all of the different options for content. Depending on what you have purchased, you may or may not see all of these different categories. So as you can see, we have a number of different categories. We have 360 places, 3D interactive, STEM lessons, interactive tours, English language, career exploration, Umake VR library, and system apps. When we go into my classes, we're going to cover adding content from these categories. But before I jump over there, I just want to talk briefly about the Umake VR library and the system apps. If you don't know, Umake VR is a creation tool. It is a separate application that can run on a PC or a Mac. And what you see here in the resources tab is just an asset library. So these different assets can be assigned to classes, and students can download these assets in order to use in a Umake VR project. You as an instructor can also use these models and scenes in your project. So when you see these, if I select this and add to my class, that just is basically providing it to students to download to their device to use in a project. These are not being pushed out to the student headset as you see them here. The system apps, this is where you can assign a Google Chrome browser to your classes. So I can go ahead and select this browser and add it to any of my classes, and the students will have access to a browser when they log into their classes. We're going to jump into my classes, and the library will make a little bit more sense from there. So you can see I have a number of classes already set up. When you first log into your account, this will be blank. Our first step is to create a new class. So up in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to click Create a Class, and I'm just going to call this class Demo for now. And the current year is what I want to leave as the default. So now I have this class down in the bottom corner of my grid. I have some options with the class. I can click and drag it and reposition that class. I have my class code here, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a few minutes. And in the upper right-hand corner of the class tile, I can edit this class, I can delete the class, or I can change the image to something else if I wanted to do that. I'm going to click on the tile to go into that class, and we're going to talk about these tabs along the top. The Content tab is where I can create playlists and add content to this class. And this is where the library is going to come in. So a couple things to point out here. I have this blue Select Content button in the upper right-hand corner. On the left side, I have my playlist, which is empty right now, as well as my Manage Playlist option. And then along the top, I have what I like to call my breadcrumbs, and I can always use those to go back a level when I'm in this area. So we can start a couple of different ways. We can go to Manage Playlists, and we can add playlists first, or we can add content first. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new playlist. And I'm going to call this playlist The Water Cycle. I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and that playlist was added to my playlist. Now I have the option of making it visible or not visible to students. So this is if students log in. If it's visible, students will be able to see that playlist in their classes. If it's not visible, it will be hidden. This allows me to plan my lessons ahead of time and decide when I want content to be visible to students. I can also edit my playlist on the right-hand side and delete my playlist. I'm going to go up to the top and to my breadcrumbs here and go back to my demo class. And now we're going to add some content to this water cycle playlist. So in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to click this blue Select Content option. And this takes me to that library. Now I'm going to start in the 360 places, and I want to find a 360 image that will help illustrate the water cycle. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search for a waterfall. Now I could filter my search by images, by videos, or if I click all, it's going to show both. So let's go ahead and view this video to see if this is something we'd like to use. I'm going to click play. I like how this is showing the water flowing down the rocks for the water cycle. We could talk about the water runoff, different things in the image. I can pan around to see what else is in this video. I'm going to go ahead and click the X to X out of that. And this looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and hit select. And then this add to class button appears in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to add it to my class. I'm going to click that playlist that I added and click apply. Now, let's say I maybe want one more. Let's go ahead and find an image of a lake. So we're not going to preview this. I'm just going to select it, go ahead and add it to my class and apply. A pro tip here, if you're not sure what types of 360 images and videos to use in a lesson, this is great integration with an AI tool. So I often use ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, I'm teaching the lesson on the water cycle. What would be some good 360 images and videos to use? And I can get a list of those and then come into the library and find those images in here. The next category I have is 3D interactive. And this is a library over 1,500 3D models. And again, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search cycle. And this gives me some different options for cycle. And one of them that I see is the hydrological cycle. I'm going to go ahead and preview this to see that this is something that I want to use in my classes. So I can rotate this. I can see some of the different pieces on the side here. This looks good. This looks like something I'd like to use. I'm going to hit select. I'm going to add to class. That water cycle is selected. I'm going to click apply. Next, I'm going to look at my STEM lessons. And my STEM lessons are over 550 lessons. And I'm going to filter this by the USA curriculum to show that we have mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology. We also have, if I choose biology, I can select a subtopic, or I can go ahead and just search up here. So I'm going to search cycle. I see I have some different options. My lesson is focused on the water cycle. I see there's a water cycle lesson. I'm going to hit select. I'm going to add to class and apply. My interactive tours. Remember, these are 22 different tours of famous landmarks in the world. So these outline the history, the culture, the cultural significance, different ideas of why these landmarks were built, things like that. This doesn't really apply to my water cycle. I do see that this one has some water involved, so we could talk about the water in this city. So I'm going to go ahead and just select it and add it to class just to, again, show you how that's done. Now, the English language curriculum is a little bit different. This one does not integrate with the portal at all. Rather, it is an independent application that's going to run on the headset. So I'm not going to add this to my classes, but this will be, if you have this content area, this will be found on the headset. Now, if you have access to the career exploration content, this is another one that has some specific headset-only application in that there is a quiz that students can take. They can go through and find their kind of work style, their personality animal. Within the portal, I can integrate different types of career videos into my content area. In studying the water cycle, Plants and soil are important with the water cycle, with runoff, with absorption into the soil. So let's say I want to connect this career to that. Again, I can just hit the select button. I can go up and add it to my class and click apply. Now, again, I can use that breadcrumb trail at the top. I'm done selecting content, so I'm going to go back to my demo class. So now on the left-hand side, within my playlists, right now I'm showing all the content. And if I filtered by the water cycle, I would just see that content. Now mine are one and the same because I've only added one playlist, but as you continue to add playlists, this area will change a little bit. So I have all of this content. I could go in and I could view these, but right now if students log into my class, they are going to see this playlist and they can explore this playlist independently from any device, whether they're in the headset, on a Chromebook, on an iPad, laptop, interactive flat panel, etc. We're going to move on to the Students tab. Now, I have some options for adding students here. It tells me I can invite students or give them the class code. Now, with student logins, before teachers can add students, admins need to add students at the admin level. So if you wanted to add your students into your class, you would need to connect with the admin to make sure that they're added into that admin level. Up in the upper right-hand corner, I can go to Add Students. And if students already know their login, I can simply show the class code, and they can go into their portal and log in using this class code. Or I can add students via the administrative portal. So if I click Add Students, choose Students, then I can go in and choose students that are already added into my, my organization. So I've added this one student, they're joined to my class. Now if that student logs in, they're going to see my class as well as the playlists I've assigned. Another delivery option is to run a VR session. So if you want to control the experience and control what students are viewing, I have two different options. I can start a session by user. In this situation, the students would be on the headset and they would need to log in using their personal student username and PIN, and then they could join my VR session. Or I can run it by device if I'm not using a student login environment. The benefit to using a user-based is if I am using those STEM lessons, they do collect data and analytics, and that's where a user environment would be important. If you don't, if collecting the assessment scores is not important to you, then you can just run this by device. So I can click this Start Session option. On the left-hand side, I see all of my content. And again, I can filter this by a playlist. So now I'm seeing the water cycle. And when I am ready to start this session for students, I can click on that track that I have. I can go ahead and click play in the upper right-hand corner. And then when I do that, any of the headsets that are connected are going to, I'm going to see a preview in these little tiles. Now, students on their side, what they will do is they'll go into the bottom of the headset, they'll click My Session, Join Session, and then everyone will be connected. You do not need to be on the same network in order to do this. So if your computer is on the teacher network and the students' devices are on the student network, they will still talk to one another. In this screen, I can also go into a preview mode, and I can go ahead and press play and see what students are seeing. I'm going to go back to the monitor. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit pause. If I did that, all of the students would see pause in their headsets. That's a great teacher management tool to get students' attention, or I can stop running that content. I want to show you a feature in the 360 images that you can use to have a little bit more control over what students are seeing. So on the left-hand side, I clicked on Hyatt Hidden Lake Reserve. I'm going to press play. Again, nothing's happening right now because I don't currently have any headsets connected, but you would see a preview of any of headsets that are connected. And now in preview mode, if I, at the very bottom, switch to flat image, I get the option, there's a note on the bottom that explains this, to click anywhere on the image to recenter your student's view in a particular area. When you place the red dot, the selected point will move directly in front of each student. So we're talking about the water cycle. Let's say I want to point out this lake. I click on the image, it provides this red dot. All student devices would be recentered on that dot. I can switch back to the 360 image and preview the full 360 view of this image. Another just pro tip, you could have this up on your interactive flat panel or classroom projector, and I could press pause at the top. I could have students take off their headset, and maybe as a class, we discuss some of the things that they saw in their headset. Maybe we could annotate on our interactive flat panel, or have students turn and talk and tell each other what they saw. I could continue to go through this playlist, or I could go ahead and let students work independently through the playlist by logging in to my classes on their headset. The last tab in the Umety classroom is reports. So I do not have a lot of data in here as of yet because I just created this class, but I'm going to show you through a few different pieces in here. So up at the top, I can filter by module, by class, or by student. So within module, I can click on the module. I can see how many students have attempted this module. I can see where that attempt was made. I have some data along the top. I can download a report. I can view this as a class and see some different graphs and reports up here. I can see who are my best performers, who's needing help, average scores of those modules, and then I can filter by specific student and get a score report. The data and analytics in here can help drive instruction in your classroom. It can also be a way to check in with students, or you could use these at parent-teacher conferences. Just as a quick review, we went over how to add content to your classes using the Select Content button. We talked about how to add students to the class using either the class code or choosing students that have already been uploaded into the admin portal. We talked about delivering a VR session to students and the Reports and Analytics tab. The last tab along the top is your Resources tab. Right here, we just see two resources. Very shortly, there will be some professional development modules, as well as some sample lesson plans and playlists that you can use to help drive your instruction and help you understand how to put content together in this portal. For additional resources and support articles, visit support.umety.com.